Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and had a subscriber ask me a question if I would talk about HIIT training, which is high intensity interval training. So let's talk about that for a bit. Let me put on my +5 cap of weaponsmithing, get my places in, and see if we can answer this. Now, what I want to state up front is that when I say HIIT is overrated, I'm talking about for general fitness, for people on a well-balanced routine whose goals are just to get fit, get in shape, have a good body composition, strong, flexible, have endurance. Why do I think it's overrated? Because it tries to fill the role of multiple other things that need to be separated. And there's a big difference between interval training for sport-specific needs versus general fitness. And I don't think it works well for general fitness just because of a number of factors I'm going to cover. Now, it doesn't mean that for specific sports applications that it isn't a massively powerful and useful tool. And that's something that we need to separate here. There are a lot of tools that may not be ideal for people who are trying to just do general fitness that can be very powerful tools for someone trying to become a world champion at some sort of sports endeavor. So people need to understand that those two things are very, very separate oftentimes, and to not confuse the two. All right, so what is the problem with HIIT? Well, what HIIT tries to do is that it tries to incorporate really high intensity cardio with lower intensity cardio and waves so that you try to get the best of both worlds, burn as many calories as possible, try to burn fat, try to build muscle at the same time. Well, the problem with it from a muscle building perspective is that the studies on this have been very mixed, and the most recent studies that I've seen that have been done on it have shown that even in people who don't lift weights, it doesn't actually seem to help them gain muscle mass. And that's an important point to look at, because we have some early studies that did show that it helped people gain muscle, which made it look very promising, because like, hey, I can do cardio that increases my cardiovascular capacity and helps me build muscle at the same time while burning a lot of calories. Well, that's fantastic, because I can build muscle, lose fat, get in shape. Great. I mean, that sounds fantastic. I think that's something most people would want, a training tool that would let them do all those things. Well, the problem is that it hasn't panned out in the real world the same way that the theory works. And a lot of that comes down to the muscle building. What we actually found, at least one study that I saw, and I linked it for you guys, it's somewhere in the thing. If you guys do a HIIT search in my channel search engine, you should be able to find that video easy enough, where I linked the study on that was done earlier this year. What we found is that the newest study on it showed that in sedentary people who just started training or who were obese already and they were trying to get into shape, that HIIT cardio didn't help them gain muscle. In fact, some of them saw a loss of muscle mass. They actually saw atrophy of the actual tissues, but they gained muscle weight. Now that's where it gets confusing, because some of the early studies, it showed, hey, they gained muscle mass. Well, they did, but it wasn't from thickening the muscle fibers. It didn't improve performance in that regard. What they saw was that it increased glycogen storage, meaning those muscles that hit that really high threshold, like your legs and everything, while riding the bike or doing whatever, sprinting in intervals, it helped them store more carbs, more glucose, more glycogen. So they store sugar in the muscles easier for a fuel source. That attracts a little more water. They gain a little tiny bit. But what it actually showed, surprisingly enough, was a loss of actual muscle fiber thickness. And I don't know why that is. I can't speculate why that is. That's simply what the data showed in that study. And then others have shown no muscle gain at all. So it becomes problematic to say, hey, this is going to help you gain muscle. Do this, you'll gain muscle from it. Because that doesn't seem to be the case. The data doesn't actually show a muscle gain. Furthermore, the strength threshold it tries to hit doing it, here's a question I would ask you, and this is a point Dr. Eric Helms raised, actually. I saw him raise a couple years back. And again, very credible expert in the area. He pointed out that he thinks it's overhyped, that it's a fad even for bodybuilding, because what does HIIT training do for you that higher rep leg work doesn't do? Meaning, if you're doing leg work somewhere in the 8 to 20 rep range with squats or leg presses or anything else, what could HIIT cardio do for your strength or your power threshold or any of that area that is trying to work to make you even a better runner or sprinter or something? What does HIIT actually do to those muscle fibers positively that isn't already achieved with somewhat higher rep squatting or leg pressing? Nothing. It offers no benefits over those. But what it does do is that it does inhibit recovery of your legs as if you had done a weight training session. So actually, if you're being forced to squat less often because you're doing HIIT sessions, but it's not putting muscle on your legs, but you can't squat as often, and we know that generally squatting somewhere between 2 and 4 times a week actually gives people the best results in terms of both strength and muscle fiber thickness. So if the HIIT cardio is inhibiting the ability to get the squat sessions in you need for ideal benefits, it isn't useful. It's actually hurting your gains because it's forcing you to train your legs less often. In fact, it could be forcing you to train your entire body with a reasonable workload and volume. It could be negatively affecting your entire body in that way because of the recovery aspect of it. It puts a very, very heavy metabolic stress on your body that you have to recover from. Yes, it burns a lot of calories, but you know what? All cardio can burn a lot of calories. Weightlifting can burn a lot of calories. There are other forms of exercise that can do all of that. So if it's not helping you and it's actually hindering your ability to do leg work more often, when that leg work's going to put muscle on you, that leg work is going to speed up your metabolism. That leg work is going to have an afterburn effect that requires calories. Is it really doing that much for you? No, it's actually in a way could be inhibiting you because you're trying to cross-train too many things at once in the same training method. There are limitations as far as overlap goes in cross-training that you can do in any given training session. The body has limits of what it will adapt to and how many different things it will. That's why it usually works best if you separate training systems out a bit, meaning separating your cardio out a little bit from your leg work actually gives you the best results of both worlds. Not doing mixed rep ranges in the same workout, meaning don't be doing heavy 3 and 4 rep sets in the same session you're doing 12 or 15 rep sets. You actually get better results over the weeks and months if you separate those into separate sessions. So the HIIT doesn't seem to take that into consideration when people are doing it or adding it in. So possibly inhibiting strength and muscle gains, well, that's not good for body composition, not good for performance. And it does increase endurance, but does it increase endurance as much as doing longer bouts of lower intensity cardio? No, it doesn't. And as far as people talking about, well, max power and or the ability to sprint, you know what? You could sprint a little bit to get better at sprinting. You don't have to do intervals for it. And your strength work on your legs will carry over and improve your sprints. But as far as the actual endurance and the cardiovascular component of it, have you ever heard of anyone successfully preparing for a marathon or a half marathon by doing HIIT? Or do they get out and actually do real endurance work? Because at the end of the day, yes, HIIT really gets your heart rate up for bursts, but does it really improve your cardiovascular capacity, your endurance? No. You show me someone who does 20 minutes of super high intense HIIT every day, and you go put them out on a half marathon, and that's all they've done for the last year. They haven't done any distance running of any type. See if they can make it to the 10 mile, 12 mile, or 20 mile mark. Bet you they can't, because they haven't built up their endurance. HIIT doesn't train it effectively enough to actually give them the endurance they want. And you know the people who do best at all of it? People who train for it specific. Rather than train in the middle and hope that it overlaps both directions, the people who train the two ends and let those two ends trickle over usually get better results. And what do I mean? Well, if you want to be strong and have muscle in your legs, do heavy squats. You know what you can also do? You can work on your endurance by doing your endurance. Doing true endurance work. Get out there and do cardio for an hour. Do cardio for 2 hours. Maybe even have a session once a week where you do 4 hours of cardio. Who's going to have more endurance? Guy who gets out and does 4 hours of less cardio once a week on his Saturdays, every Saturday morning, or a guy who does HIIT 3 times a week? Who's going to have more endurance when it comes to actually getting out and doing extended endurance or cardio? Guy who does that 4 hour once a week and maybe throws some other lifts in between, or even moderate cardio in between. Which one's going to help recovery more? Well, HIIT impedes recovery. Lifts actually seems to, if you do it over time long enough, seems to improve your recovery rates. Meaning that guy who does that 4-hour lift session every Saturday, as long as he's re-eating the calories that he's putting in and he's getting sufficient sleep, actually builds better capillary beds and better pathways within his musculature to clear waste products, to bring new nutrients in from the extra capillarization and everything he's getting. What does that mean if he's also weight training? It means he might recover slightly faster from his weight training on top of it. Well, if you can recover from your weight training by doing the list cardio instead of inhibiting it, that's going to be the better option for someone who wants to get really strong on their squat or their deadlift or any of that leg work, because they are improving recovery with their endurance work. They're going to be a better performing machine that recovers faster, has better stamina, and has better strength. That person is going to be more fit. When we think of true fitness, and I don't mean fitness as in how you look on the cover of a magazine, because believe me, Trenbolone doesn't make you very fit, but it sure makes you look good on a magazine cover. But it kills your endurance. It can bury your HDL cholesterol, but that's what it takes to look like those guys. That's what they use to get there. Does it make you fit? No. But doing long bouts of list cardio combined with serious strength and power work on heavy barbell work will make you very fit. Because fitness is about health and performance first and foremost. Body composition is part of fitness, and I'm not going to argue that it's not, because we know it is, but it is a secondary consideration. It's like an after effect of being fit. It's not the primary determination of being fit. And so, again, if you really want to get truly fit, you're going to get more bang for your buck, and you're going to have a better cross-section of fitness with better recovery, better performance all the way around if you combine serious strength work with true endurance work throughout the week, separated out. And if you try to work in these sessions of HIIT, because HIIT, it's like some other people said, and I've seen other people state that, again, I've seen Dr. Eric Helms state that HIIT is a fad that will eventually go away when people realize it's probably not the best approach at all. It doesn't really incorporate the best of both worlds the way that it's been sold to be. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.